Hello, 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 everyone. Well, we have a damn lot to cover, so let's go into this. I said I'd do more of these, and I think I enjoyed the last one actually. So let's see what the turnout's like. Let's go Friday night boxing chat. Let's see who comes on. Let's see if we can get some people on. Um, First of all, there's actually a fight on tonight: Clarissa Shields versus Mary Eve DeCare for her pay-per-view debut. Really interesting. So obviously she's been done a little bit dirty by the networks in the US. They just don't seem to really be doing anything, and it's quite interesting as to why that's happening. Um, yeah, Showtime obviously was supposed to put it on, but they just were sitting around and eventually just didn't end up doing it. But this is on for $29.99. And she's 10-0, and De Care 17-0. She's got no knockouts. Wow, so she's got absolutely no power. And yeah, she said it's been ignored, the fight, so she's just self-promoted. Well, her and Dimitri Salita, who, if anyone knows, is a promoter and also used to be a fighter. But yeah, let's see. She has the highest purse as being at 350K. That's not great, you know. That's the women. They're not getting the recognition they deserve, are they? Which is not good. It's not good at all. It's an interesting fight. Obviously, it's two unbeaten fighters, and it's for the undisputed championship. So it will be a really intriguing matchup, anyway, to say the least. But that should be interesting as to what does happen. Yeah, let's see what does happen or doesn't happen. Fingers crossed. We see good, some very good fights involving her, but I reckon she's going to go to MMA. I think she's already said she's going to fight in MMA, but she could potentially end up going to the UFC if people just aren't bothered about. And it's bad because really, here in the UK, if she was a UK women's fighter, I reckon she'd get a lot more praise, and that's really what she should get. Like she should get a lot more praise, a lot more. There should be a lot more hype around her, and unfortunately, there's not for some reason. I don't know why that's the case because she's a fantastic fighter. She's someone who, I mean, she's got skills to pay the bills. She really does. And she said here that she'd beat 98% of men. I don't know. I don't know. Put her in with someone and let's see. But like, she's a character, isn't she? She really is. And she's good for boxing. And she's not just for women's boxing. She's just good for boxing, I think. And she's a good person, really big personality. And it saddens me to say, but if she was male, she'd sell big numbers. But because she's not right. She's not going to be. So yeah, that's for the WBA, WBC, IBF, and WBO super welterweight titles. It's in Michigan, so let's see how that goes. That'll be on. Do I say tonight? So in the UK, I guess it'll be on like 3, 4 a.m. in the morning. I'm assuming. Let's go on to the other news then, because there's some huge news that's happened, which I am so excited about. Josh Taylor versus Jose Ramirez has finally been agreed. This is the fight that we all know Josh Taylor signed with Top Rank. A big reason as to why he signed with Top Rank is because Jose Ramirez is with Top Rank, and he wanted to unify and become undisputed super welterweight champion. Even I put light welterweight. That's wrong, isn't it? No, it is light welterweight. What am I talking about? Light welterweight champion, and so 140 pounds, and that's been confirmed for May 22nd in LA. I doubt there's going to be any. I doubt there's going to be many spectators, if any. But yeah, let's see how that goes. I think it's going to be an absolute cracker, and I'll do more kind of in-depth stuff near the time. But I genuinely I can't wait for that fight. It's gonna be an absolute banger, and we've just got so many good fights on. Not even just in May, but this month. And I'm not going to go into detail about it, but I mean, guys, like next week we've got Estrada versus Chocolatito. So Juan Estrada versus Roman Gonzalez for the WBA, WBC Super Flyweight titles. We've also got Jessica McCaskill versus Cecilia Breakhouse for the WBA, WBC, IBF, and IBO welterweight titles. That's a rematch, obviously. Jessica McCaskill beating Cecilia Breakhouse to take her undisputed crown at welterweight. So that's a really good fight. And on the same card is Hiroto Kayuguchi versus Axel Aragon Vega for the WBA light flyweight title. Again, so like three title fights. Really looking forward to that card. And then after that, I mean, we've got a card in the UK, supposedly, which is Lawrence Okoli fighting Glowacki for the WBO World Cruiserweight title. Obviously, they were supposed to do that a few months back, but Glowacki had to pull out because he failed a COVID test. Chantel Cameron versus Melissa Hernandez, although I think from what I know, that fight is being rescheduled because Chantel Cameron has injured herself in camp. But we've got Chris Smith versus Dion Juma for the Commonwealth and vacant British Cruiserweight titles. That's going to be a cracker as well. And on the 27th, we've got Dylan White versus Alexander Povetkin. That rematch, which will be, again, an absolute barnstormer, I would assume. And Ted Cheeseman versus JJ Metcalf will be unbelievable. And for anyone that doesn't know, I actually interviewed JJ Metcalf a few weeks back, and he was in camp at the time because originally it wasn't going to be the 27th, it was going to be the 5th. But obviously they moved it back for various reasons. So they moved it back a few weeks. But yeah, he was in camp and really, really nice guy. Just great to talk to, and go and have a listen to that interview. It's under my playlist, Boxing Interviews, and I've got some more for fights that are relevant. So Kane Baker's on that undercard as well. I interviewed him. He's a really nice guy as well. So yeah, I mean, this month has got some crackers, and obviously we've got some good fights in April and May as well, which will be really good. But let's see how it goes. It'll be. I mean, we obviously had. Now we've got two incredible fights lined up in May. So May 8th, we've got Billy Joe Saunders versus Canelo Alvarez, and then on the 22nd, we've got Josh Taylor versus Jose Ramirez. Okay, that's enough of me rambling on. Let's talk about who's going to win that fight. Josh Taylor versus Jose Ramirez. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail because it's early days, but I've got this feeling, right, that Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez, I've got this feeling that Josh Taylor is a special fighter. I think someone said his record, so his past 5 opponents had a combined record, I think it's something like 110-1. That's just unbelievable. And he seems to just have this something special about him, Josh Taylor, where yeah, he does look like he wants to have a tear up, but he probably doesn't need to. He's a southpaw. He's very, very talented. But then on the other hand, you got Jose Ramirez, who's a pressure fighter who comes forward. He went into that fight against Maurice Hooker, where a lot of people thought Maurice Hooker would beat him as a unification. He just completely destroyed Maurice Hooker. Whereas you can say, Josh Taylor had a close fight against Regis Prograis. There's an argument to be had that Regis Prograis potentially is a harder fight for Josh Taylor than Jose Ramirez, though, if you look at the styles. And I think Ben Davison is adamant about that as well. So I think either way, it's going to be a really, really good fight. I can't wait for it. It's going to be a cracker. And that's just such good news to see that get over the line. Finally, we've got that undisputed fight. And then in other news, Joseph Parker, like for anyone who doesn't know, against Junior Farr, he got some pretty fortunate scorecards, which I think he probably did just nick the fight, but he was fortunate to get cards so wide. And after that performance, clearly either himself or his team or both have looked at the situation and just said, well, actually, to be honest with you, you probably haven't been fighting at your best level, or you've been declining when you shouldn't be because you're only 29 in your last few performances. And if you look at the fight against Joshua, he wasn't aggressive. Against Hughie Fury, again, wasn't particularly impressive. Then you see the fight against Dylan White. The fight against Dylan White, I can kind of give him a little bit because him and Dylan White, they both had short notice, but he started so slow in that fight as well. And then against Junior Farr, they were just clinching and holding and hugging. And I'm just like, he doesn't look like he wants to be proactive in there. And he's got pretty quick hands. He looked like he was too heavy in there as well. And he just looks very passive. And I think Kevin Barry and him, obviously, maybe, I don't think it's gone stale, maybe. I think that's a bit harsh to say, but I just think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Let's see how it goes, though. Let's see how it goes, because I think, yeah, Kevin Barry is clearly a decent trainer. I mean, look, they got him to become world champion, right? He was a WBO world heavyweight champion. So can you say that actually he's done a terrible job? No. But I think now it should be a case of he needs to find a new trainer. Who does he train with now? I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea who he's going to train with. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see who he does. Cryptic as well, thanks very much for joining. I'm not going to answer your questions because it's to do with cricket, and this is a boxing discussion, live boxing discussion. But if you send me a message or comment on the video for later of the West Indies Sri Lanka stream that I'm doing, we can have a discussion on that, no problem. But yeah, back on to Joseph Parker. Is he going to fight Derek Chisora? What do you guys think? Because Derek Chisora, after called him a chicken, I saw an interview with him in IFL TV, and he called Joseph Parker live on the interview and started going chicken, chicken, and I think it was like 1 a.m. in New Zealand, so he didn't pick up, but he left voicemails, and clearly Derek Chisora wants that fight. I think Joseph Parker probably wants it as well. I mean, he was supposed to fight him before, and then he got a spider bite, which put him out of the fight. I would back Joseph Parker for that one, but it'll be interesting to see who goes with training wise, because he definitely needs someone to reignite that fire under him. And I wonder if it's a case of now that he's become world champion, he's kind of thinking to himself, I've done what I wanted to do. And some people, they lose motivation after that. And we saw that with Tyson Fury in an extreme sense. But, you know, I think for Joseph Parker, is that motivation really there to become the best, to be the best? Like, he seems like a really nice guy, you know, which is great. He clearly has ability, again, which is great. But he's 29, and it's now make or break it for Joseph Parker. Is he going to really stand up and say, I'm going to be super active? He was so inactive. He's been so inactive. And the fights that he has taken, most of them have been like, they're not top guys. Junior Farr, I didn't even know about him until they started talking about that fight. I'm being perfectly honest with you. I had no idea who he was. Yeah, he looks like a pretty decent fighter when he fought him, but he's nothing special. Like, he needs to be looking at the Hrgovic versus Hunter winner and people like that, not looking at even Derek Chisora, to be honest with you. That, for him, should be a fight that he looks at as, I'm going to definitely win that and then go on. It shouldn't be a big fight to him, if that makes sense. So interesting to see what he does there and how far he can go, whether he can go back to the mountaintop. In other news as well, Teofimo Lopez and Top Rank, what's going on there? I mean, they're coming out, Bob Arum saying, oh, you know, I don't really care if we don't get the fight with him and Kambosos Jr. You know, purse bids have been won for that. I think it was like 6.25 million, which Teofimo Lopez, you know, put on there, but that's not all for him. But anyways, so fair enough, he got a decent amount. I think Matchroom and Top Rank bidded, and Matchroom was like quite substantially lower, and Top Rank was even lower than that. It was like a couple of mil. I don't really care about who won the purse bid. It's just the case of after that, he was saying, oh, thank you, Triller. And then he found out that, who was it? Todd DeBoof, is it? I think is his name. Todd LeBoof basically emailed Matchroom or contacted Matchroom to say, please, can you not like bid for this because, you know, X, Y, and Z because of good faith. And he found out about that and was like, what the hell? Because clearly as a fighter, he wants as much money as possible. So now he's saying that he's going to look to try and get out of his contract with Top Rank and become a free agent, so that he can either, I guess, he could potentially start his own promotional stuff. But I'm assuming he'll go with another promoter, someone like Eddie Hearn, etc. The only issue I have with Teofimo Lopez is I was really bigging him up beforehand, saying that, he came out after that fight against Lomachenko and said everyone wants to be, money made, but no one wants to go through being, pretty boy Floyd first, where he fought everyone, didn't fight everyone for huge purses, and then clearly became the man, and then he could demand that type of money. And I understand that he has the most notable win out of those, those four really talented youngsters, himself, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, and Gervonta Davis. I'd say he's got the most notable win. But that doesn't warrant him suddenly becoming like Money Mayweather, because that's one fight. And I feel like either he's forgotten what he said previously, or he genuinely thinks that the money he's getting or wants to have is like the type of money he deserves, like it's normal money. And I'm, again, like, who am I to say that he doesn't deserve that? I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. I'm just saying that it kind of contradicts what he said previously. And I was pushing. I was like, oh, amazing to hear him say that. It's incredible to hear him say that. It's great to have someone saying that, what, money is a great thing, but you need to actually work your way there. You can't price yourself out fights. But then he seems to be doing that. And they're talking about what is it? He said to Eddie Hearn, if you want Devin Haney to fight me, I need 10 million. Like, that's so unrealistic. Like, he's never going to get 10 million to fight Devin Haney. That's a big fight. It's not that big. You got 6.25 for Kambosos Jr. You could probably get maximum 8 million, maybe, realistically. He's not getting 10 million plus. I don't know. I just think it's disappointing because there were talks that potentially, I knew it was too good to be true because it's boxing. Like, what do we expect? I was not hoping. I was hearing stuff, and I was thinking, we might actually get Teofimo Lopez versus Devin Haney, right? And then we'd get Ryan Garcia versus Tank Davis. Instead, it doesn't look like we're going to get any of that. It looks like what's going to happen is we're just going to get, not rubbish, but we're just going to get fights that I'm thinking, why can't they just fight each other? People are so afraid to take an O early in their career, and that actually that's come from Floyd Mayweather saying that the O is the most important thing in the game, which it's not. Yeah, it's great to have, but I would say 98, 99% of the greatest fighters ever, they didn't have O's. The only people that did have an O was Floyd Mayweather and Rocky Marciano. But who cares? As in, yeah, it's great you went unbeaten, and I understand there's a certain weight to that, but that shouldn't define whether you're a great fighter or not. So these guys have got to challenge themselves early doors, and if they don't want to fight each other, then I damn hope they've still got a lot of time. They're all very young. I just damn hope that they're going to fight each other at some point, because it could be a case of a really lost chance of a golden generation. It really could. And talking of that division, the lightweight division, Devin Haney says he doesn't need to fight Teofimo Lopez to become a star, which is just silly. Come on, guys. And apparently, Teofimo Lopez said, I have to fight Rolando Ramirez to get him, and I don't need Teofimo to become a star. Teofimo is not someone that I need. I still make more money than fighting Teofimo Lopez. No, he doesn't. For him to say that I have to go through Rolly to get to you is ridiculous. I don't really need Teofimo. My main focus is to keep winning, collecting all the belts in my division. Fame will come, the money will come in good time. I want belts more than anything. Okay. And apparently, so Lopez will be fighting Kambosos Jr., right? That's what's going to happen. Devin Haney is most likely going to fight Javier Fortuna for the defense of his title. So old. Or Jorge Linares, which I can get on board with Jorge Linares. I can get on board with that more. Javier Fortuna, no. And but he says they're not the fights that Haney is longing for, but he'll have to do for the time being because he believes Teofimo Lopez, Gervonta Davis, and Ryan Garcia avoiding him. Blah, blah, blah. They all say the same thing. Everyone's avoiding me. Everyone's avoiding me. Then on the other hand, you've got Ryan Garcia saying, I want to fight Tank Davis. And then Tank Davis is apparently going to potentially fight for the regular belt right? The regular belt at 140. Why is he going all the way to 140? And it's clearly because he wants to become wants to carry on becoming a multi-weight, world champion, which he is at the moment. So he wants to add another division. I'm sorry, it doesn't count. It's like when Canelo beat Rocky Fielding to win the WBA regular title. It literally means jack. Not jack. That's harsh. Look, because I'm not fighting. Okay, let me rephrase. If you win the WBA regular title, it's like a secondary title. It doesn't really hold much weight at all. If you're a fighter that wants to say that you're a multi-weight world champion, in my eyes, winning the WBA regular title doesn't count. It's not a world, it's not a super belt. So it doesn't count. There's someone else in that division who is from the same association who has got a higher ranking than you. So unless you win that belt, you can't say you're a world champion in that division. Like, I'm sorry, it's like winning an interim belt and saying I'm the world champion. No, you're not. Who's the real world champion? It's not you. Like Dylan White, he's the interim champion. He's not the real world champion. He wasn't the real world champion. It was Deontay Wilder. Exactly the same thing. Like a good example is Manuel Char, right? Like, or Trevor Bryan now. He's got the WBA regular title. Do you guys think he's a heavyweight world champion? No, you don't. It's Anthony Joshua. Let's get real. Let's stop being silly. Regular titles, like someone like Tank Davis, just stick to where you are. He's been fighting at 130. He wants to move up 10 pounds. So it's either because he doesn't want to make weight, or doesn't want to make a lot of weight because he'll probably have to come down from something. He normally balloons a weight anyway. So most likely he'll be coming down from like 170. But he needs to be fighting at 135. Like, all these guys are there. Just fight there. I mean, Ryan Garcia kind of seems. At first, I thought maybe Ryan Garcia and Oscar De La Hoya don't want it. Now, kind of to me, it doesn't seem like Tank Davis is scared of Ryan Garcia. I don't think that at all. I just think they're hoping he's going to marinate, and he can go and win belts, and he can become this multi. He can become 3, 4, 5 weight world champion, and then he can come back and say, by the way, I'm the A side, which he probably is the A side, Tank Davis, but. I'm not buying. I don't think by a huge amount. It wouldn't be like 70-30. I think we're talking like 60-40. Yeah, I don't know. But Ryan Garcia, who does he fight then? He said he does. He either wants Pacquiao or he wants Ryan Garcia. So he's probably not. Sorry, he wants Pacquiao or he wants Tank Davis, and it doesn't look like he's going to get either of those fights. So is he just going to sit on the shelf? I hope not. He needs to just get out there and fight someone. Because if Devin Haney's going to fight Javier Fortuna, he should fight Linares. And actually, he's a mandatory for Devin Haney, but he hasn't been talking about that. And I heard actually he was on the Undefeated podcast. They're really cool actually. Check out their podcast. I don't mind calling out other YouTube channels and giving them a bit of airtime because it's all good. Yeah, they're quite funny actually, both of them as well. But they were saying that they have a feeling that everyone is avoiding Devin Haney because no one seems to be calling him out or saying or really being serious about fighting. When apparently Bill Haney has done interviews saying like we've tried everything, we've tried being respectful, being disrespectful, doing X, Y, and Z, and nothing. No one really is biting. No one really wants to fight. And Rendezvous says, "You got this." Thank you very much, Rendezvous. Rendezvous, how you doing, mate? How are you doing? And yeah, I just think Devin Haney is this. Teofimo is fire. Yeah, you know what, the Rendezvous. So what do you think? Teofimo Lopez, I'm saying, right? This dude is a beast. I mean, he's just beat Lomachenko, right? He's got the most notable win. But I don't know if you remember, after that win, he said, you can't become Money Mayweather or ask for Money Mayweather money or like purses without being Pretty Boy Floyd first. He's had one notable win, so he's still in that Pretty Boy Floyd phase, but he's expecting lots of money. And he's got it with Triller, fine, but he's using it as an excuse to say, well, I need 10 million to fight Devin Haney. That's never going to happen. I used to say that to Eddie Hearn. I'm like, that's so unrealistic. And he's just pricing himself out. And I personally don't think it's because I don't think any of them are scared of anyone. I think they would all fight each other in a heartbeat if the right money was there. But also they're young as well, so they've got time. They'll probably go up in the divisions together. as well, apart from maybe Tank Davis because he's got pretty short reach and short arms. But yeah, I think for me, he's gone on to fight Kambosos Jr. for his mandatory, which is fine. But then he's calling out Devin Haney, but that's so unrealistic. The 10 million. Let me know what you think, Rendezvous, and I'm assuming you think Teofimo Lopez is number one in the division, in the lightweight division, which is fair enough. Fair enough. But it just disappointed me that he said that, and then he's kind of contradicted himself after, which look, he's entitled to do. Like boxers, go out and get your worth, but then don't say beforehand and pretend like, oh, actually, yeah, you know, yeah, I'll go through that process because he had that. I feel like he had that one fight where he was like, yeah, I'm gonna beat Lomachenko. He got lowballed a little bit, and now he's got this chip on his shoulder that actually, no. What I'm talking about, I'm the man, so I'm gonna demand X, Y, and Z. And Rendezvous says it's my opinion. Teofimo deserves that much purse. Yeah. I think what as in the 10 million. You think 10 million? You think? Do you think he's a big enough draw though? I think he's a good enough fighter to determine it, but unfortunately, unlike other sports, being a boxer, you've got to be a big draw, and it's not all about the belts you've got, and that's why you've got people who are world champions in the lower weight classes, and no one knows who they are. Like genuinely, like someone who was like a pound for pound fighter and is fighting as well in a week's time, like Chocolatita Roman Gonzalez. Do you know who he is? Because I know a lot of people that don't know who he is, which is like crazy because the dude is like one of the best pound for pound fighters around, or was anyway. And now he's come back with vengeance. He knocked out Cal Yafai and stuff. So uh, I don't know. And he fights at flyweight or super flyweight. So I think that kind of makes me think that Teofimo Lopez, he's doing really good PR. Like he was on Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson. He's clearly trying. He's talking the talk, and he talked the talk before as well. And Rendezvous says, yeah, he does deserve 10 million. Fair enough. So that's your opinion. I think it probably is. But then you've got to be realistic with it. So then I guess he's thinking, well, I'll wait until I get bigger or Devin gets bigger, and then I can fight him. But in that time, he's going to be able to fight enough people to say, actually, you know what, I'm fighting X, Y, and Z. It's going to improve my game. I don't know whether that's the case. We'll see. I guess we'll see against Kambosos Jr. But yeah, the dude is a fantastic fighter. He really is. And look, I mean, he's going to move up to 140. So will Devin Haney. Ryan Garcia will as well. And then they'll move through the weights. They'll move through, they'll be at like welterweight. They'll be at welterweight. They'll probably, some of them might even go to like middleweight. Might even see them at middleweight. Who knows? They might even end up there. I don't know. We'll see. But Josh Taylor obviously is fighting Jose Ramirez. I wouldn't be surprised if Teofimo Lopez wants to fight the winner of that. He'll move up in weight, and then it'll be undisputed lightweight champion against undisputed light welterweight champion, and that would be an unbelievable fight. Imagine Josh Taylor against Teofimo Lopez. That'd be a barnstormer. But it just frustrates me that all these guys are calling each other out on Twitter, but then they're not actually really willing to fight each other. And it's all comes down to money, which is fine. And Triller have obviously come out and they've just broken it and said, "Nah, we're going to give you 6.25 million. Here you go." And he's like, "Great." He's like, "Fantastic." But yeah, I don't know. It just frustrates me a little bit. And Tank Davis going up to 140, so he's moving up to weight. Yeah, I mean, he had one fight at 135, so he's technically moving up at least a division, if not two. He's not going to fight Ryan Garcia. He's not going to fight Teofimo Lopez. He's not going to fight Devin Haney. He's going to fight like this guy who, again, there's not really much in it, and he's the WBA regular champion because Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez have all the other belts, the actual belts, the actual world title belts, and he's going to say, I'm a multi-weight world champion," which he is at the moment, but he that won't add to his weight division titles. For me, that doesn't count. So I don't know, man. It's disappointing for me. It really is. But let's see. Let's see how it goes. And guys listening as well, thank you very much for tuning in. Please remember to like this video. And what topics do you guys have to talk about? If you've got anything you want to talk about, I heard that Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua is pretty much, well, someone said it's like 1,000,000% done or something. But obviously that's clearly not the case because it hasn't happened. But yeah, what do you guys think about that? As in, do you think we're going to see a Do you think we're going to see like a quality fight for that as well? Because it could go down as something that ends up being boring, but it's definitely not going to be here in the UK. It's going to be probably Saudi or Dubai, probably in June. I'll just be happy when it gets signed and confirmed. That's what I want to see. I really want to see that happen. So fingers crossed. And yeah, let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. There's also a fight coming up, if anyone is unaware, between Sam Maxwell and Akeem Ennis-Brown, which is March 26th. That is a cracker. That is a cracker. It really is. It's a fantastic fight on BT Sport. And yeah, that's for the British and Commonwealth light welterweight titles. I've actually interviewed both fighters. Let's go check it out. It's on my playlist, boxing interviews. I've interviewed them pretty recently and asked them about each other as well. So that was really cool. I do check that out as well, and I'll be on BT Sport. Rendezvous says, what's happening with Wilder these days? Is he okay? I want Deontay Wilder versus AJ. Oh, man. You know what? I've got a friend, and me and him, we love talking about Deontay Wilder. We love talking about Deontay Wilder. We really do. He says, I want Deontay Wilder versus AJ. Well, Deontay Wilder versus AJ is not going to happen until the two fights between AJ and Fury first anyway. I would still like to see that fight, though. I still think, I mean, let's be honest, it's just going to be a shootout. It's whoever lands first, and they can both knock each other out. So that's what makes it exciting, that fight. What's happened with him? Well, obviously, as you probably know, he had that saga where straight after he said, oh, the suit was too heavy, then he went really quiet for a long time. Then he did this really bizarre promo video, which was like, I'm rising from the ashes like a phoenix, and it was like this music, like, yeah, really weird background music and montage. It was just bizarre. And then he said Mark Breland poisoned his water. Him and Mark Breland went at it over social media. Sacked Mark Breland as well. Then he said that Fury had egg weights in his glove and he cheated, and that's why he lost. So basically, he hasn't come to terms at all with the fact that actually he lost, and maybe he needs to work on his game. But it's just because he got poisoned, and there's an egg weight, and Fury basically cheated throughout the whole thing. And in the first fight, the count was too long. He actually knocked him out. So basically, in his mind, he won the first fight, and the second fight, he only lost it because basically Fury cheated, which is, and I've said this before and I'll say it again. If it's the case, then fine, right? Okay, if he genuinely thinks that's the case, which it seems to be that he actually does think that's the case, 100% he thinks it's the case, then where is the proof? Like, you can't just say stuff and just be like, it's like if he came up and said, by the way, you know, I don't know, Tyson Fury is actually 5 foot. Well, show me the proof. Like, show me the measurement. Show me something scientific. But he hasn't done any of that. He hasn't provided any proof, any evidence. He's just said X, Y, and Z's happened. Blah blah blah. Okay, that's great. That's great, Deontay. That's fantastic. But everyone's just saying everyone's saying he's deluded, and he's literally mental for saying this stuff. Like, genuinely, like, they think he's mental. And instead of saying like, "Yo, I got destroyed in devastating fashion," which is really what you should be saying, and that's using his own words, he's come out and just said, "Nah, I'm the best." And actually, it's almost like he's in denial, like he can't handle the loss, which is quite frustrating, because if you see Anthony Joshua when he lost to Andy Ruiz, he was so like humble about it. There's loads of people like that. Josh Warrington was the same when he lost recently. Like, loads of fighters, when they've lost, they've come out and they've just been like, okay, fair play, you won fair and square, I understand. What annoys me even more is that, you know, that glove situation, a lot of people, they cite what happened in the first fight. No one was talking about that before the second fight. Because after the second fight, when Deontay Wilder lost, they were like, oh, hold on, in the first fight, I'm like, hold on, where's this come from though? Why are you suddenly looking into the first fight when you were it's because they were so confident that Deontay Wilder would win and knock out Tyson Fury in the second fight, that They didn't even bother looking into it. And I've heard like all these theories and stuff, and it sounds great. Like it sounds like these fans literally have, it's like this massive conspiracy theory. And I'm like, you know what? To be fair, you might even fool me. I'm, to be honest, that's a really good story. It's won it fantastically, and you know what? Who knows? It might even be the case. It might be, but if that's the case, then give me a shred of proof, a shred of evidence, right? Like they said on the doctor's report, it said that it can only be from a blunt object. Okay, where's that medical report? Do you know what I mean? It's just a load of rubbish. But yeah, I think he was supposed to come back. He said he was going to fight in February, which clearly hasn't happened. So I don't know what's going on with him. Apparently, it was going to be him versus Charles Martin, which in the end didn't happen. Well, hasn't happened yet anyway. And he had a shortlist, which was like, I think it was, and Charles Martin wasn't even on it. I don't think it was Hellenius, Andy Ruiz, Tyson Fury, Dylan White. Anthony Joshua wasn't on there, and it was someone else. But then after now, he said, actually, yeah, I want. Who is it? He goes, yeah, I want Tyson. I want Anthony Joshua now. And what really annoys me even more is that then he said, wasn't it, in the video that the really weird montage. Oh yeah, I took less money to fight you when I could have taken more to fight AJ. So all that talk of saying that AJ was avoiding him, it was complete rubbish because they offered him more money to fight. They offered Deontay Wilder more money to fight AJ than he actually inevitably took to fight Fury. So it was his decision to fight Fury, and I'm not saying that he swerved AJ. He didn't. He just chose to fight Fury because he probably thought Fury would be an easier fight at the time because they thought that they were going to get Fury when he'd obviously come back from a really long layoff and he wasn't maybe the same fighter, which obviously completely backfired. But anyway, they took that fight, so they had the opportunity to take the AJ fight, but they didn't want to, which is fine. But then you can't come out after and say like, "Oh, he's ducking me." No, he's not. And then it just proved that he wasn't. So he is just someone who, unfortunately, he's like the big bad wolf. He's cried wolf so many times that can you really believe him? I don't really believe a word that he says anymore, unfortunately. And that's what happens when you say so many things that seem absolutely ridiculous. And he's a fantastic fighter. He's great for the sport. Unbelievable punch power. Probably one of the hardest punchers ever in the heavyweight division. Could probably knock out anyone on his day. Very limited in his boxing ability. Needs to work on his boxing ability. But the issue is what's happened is he has almost got drunk on his own power, literally with that right hand, and even with his left hand. And he just thought, I've got so much power, I don't really need to bother boxing and setting it up. All I need to do is I need to set up with a jab, 1-2, and maybe a left hook, and that's it. As long as I can throw the right hand properly, then great. So that's kind of what comes across to me with him. Rendezvous says, yeah, his suit was 20 pounds or something. I never thought he could go down that easy, but Fury was so much better than him. Yeah. I mean, he got wobbled, didn't he, against Dominic Brazil the fight before, and also against Luis Ortiz as well. So he has been wobbled before, but he's never dropped. That's the thing. And yeah, I mean, Fury hit with a body shot, and he went flying across the ring. What the hell? The issue is as well, and Anthony Joshua said this before, which is probably just a little bit of ego as well, to be fair. But what he said has an element of truth to it, in that he said, how much does Deontay Wilder weigh? Like 15 stone, right? Or something like that. And he's like, yeah, I'll destroy him. And what he meant, and obviously he thinks he'd beat him, as Deontay Wilder would think that he would beat AJ as well. Everyone thinks they can beat everyone at that level, which is understandable. But the point that he had was that Deontay Wilder is so light. And in a way, it's good for him because it means he's athletic. But he doesn't actually utilize his athleticism enough. So what ends up happening is he ends up he just ends up going, okay, I'm just going to box on the outside. I'm going to try not to get hit lots, and then I'll try and set up my power shot and get the knockout, and that's how I'm going to box, right? Fury was like, nah, that's not happening. I'm not worried about your power. I'm going to stand in the middle of the ring, and then I'm going to basically come forward, but calculated aggression, which, everyone knows I love that phrase. Calculated aggression in any sport. Yeah, calculated aggression, come forward, still move my head, still use my feet, but I'm going to throw more punches. I'm going to let you know that I'm here. And he'd obviously developed and worked on his right hand, that right cross, which is very Kronk-like. The Kronk way of thinking is you need to 1-2 him, right? So, as in the 1-2, it is like a big, big weapon for Kronk fighters under Emmanuel Stewart and now Sugar Hill Stewart. So, I think on the whole, Tyson Fury fought a fight that he wasn't expecting, which is fine. But the issue is that he also came into it like a 190 pounds. Deontay Wilder was vastly lighter than him, and what that meant is that Fury just kept on leaning on him. I think at one point he licked the blood off Deontay Wilder. That was really weird, by the way. I know that people were like, "Oh yeah, he's." I was just like, "No, that's just strange. That's really, really strange. I don't care who you are. That's still bizarre. That's so bizarre." And he's like, "Yeah, I needed to taste my." I was just like, "You're a crazy man, absolutely crazy." But I mean, yeah, he just put on an absolute clinical performance, and he just looked like a beast in there. Unfortunately, Deontay Wilder had no answer for it. And the issue that I have is that a lot of fighters at that level probably aren't scared to do the same thing. Yeah, he's got really big power, but you still have to be able to set it up. And the way he sets up is pretty simple. If you've got someone who's got very good boxing IQ, they'll be able to take that away from you. And that's what Ben Davison said. He said he's got a big right hand, right? You'd expect someone who is an Olympian or someone who has fought in the amateurs or even someone who just has very good boxing IQ to say, well, I know how I can take that shot away from you. Yes, Deontay Wilder has a left hook, but most of the danger does come from that right hand. So, because that's the shot that he likes to throw the most. And yeah, his left hook is pretty powerful as well. But on the whole, it's that 1-2. And really, even then, the jab is sometimes just a rangefinder so that he can say, okay, yeah, I'm in range. Missile coming, right hand, knock him out, which is fine. But he's just got one string to his bow and he needs to work on his game. And I hope that he does come back because genuinely, and I know I've like, I've made lots of jokes about him or, I've said X, Y, and Z about him, but genuinely, I think he's fantastic for the division. And to be honest with you, him talking the kind of nonsense that he's been talking about is kind of good for boxing anyway, because it's good for boxing in the sense that it makes people talk about it. I think he could probably go about it in a better way so that he seems like he's got more. Yeah, I mean, so that he seems like he's actually got some type of. There's some weight to what he says, let's say. But unfortunately, that's kind of gone a little bit. So let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. I'm hoping that he comes back. I'd love to see some, for example, him versus Andy Ruiz. By the way, have you seen Andy Ruiz? I saw a picture of him and his quads looked absolutely jacked. Like his legs looked huge, like in a good way, like ripped. And he did have a long sleeve top on, so I couldn't tell. I had no idea like how his upper section looked, which I think is his main issue, obviously. So interesting to see how he does. I think he's going to be fighting Arreola, Chris Arreola, who's another Mexican fighter who is pretty out of shape as well, to be honest with you. And he's fought for a world title, but really it's a tune-up fight for Andy Ruiz. Under Eddie Reynoso, man, I'll tell you what, he sorts out his attitude. And when I say attitude, as in like he really dedicates himself to boxing, and he's now under Canelo's trainer, which kind of to me means that he's either going to have to, if he's going to be with Eddie Reynoso, he is going to take it seriously. If he's not, then he's going to be gone. Like he's just going to say, Eddie Reynoso will say, bye bye, we're not bothered, don't care how much you're going to pay us, don't want to bother training you, which hasn't happened yet. So I feel like it's a positive sign. And I'm hoping, is what would happen is he would have Yeah, I'm hoping that what will happen is we'll have Andrew Ruiz will fight. He'll fight Areola. We'll have like Deontay Wilder fight. I don't know. Johnson. Both get knockouts will look good. You can have and you have belts getting vacated. You also got Usyk versus Joyce. Like, there's so many fights to make. Gotta make them. Gotta make them. I'd love to see Andy Ruiz versus Dylan White. I'd love to see White. I'd love to see Wilder versus Usyk. I'd love to see Usyk versus flipping Andrew Ruiz. I'd like to see Andrew Ruiz versus Deontay Wilder. I'd like to see Dylan White versus Wilder. Dylan White versus Wilder is an absolute cracker. Seriously. Unbelievable fight that would be. Rendezvous says Andrews was awesome until his second fight versus AJ. Yeah, exactly. Was. And he put on such weight for that. He came into that fight like 19 stone. And it's funny because all of the pundits, they saw him in the workout and he looked really good on the pads, right? But you can look really good on the pads for a couple of for 30 seconds because obviously you don't gas in 30 seconds. So he looked good on the pads, he looked sharp, and they're like, oh, we think actually the extra weight is muscle, like actually he looks like he's a bit more filled out, but we think it's muscle. And then it came to the day and he just looked so overweight, and you're like, what? And the reason why is because it just went to his head, but he looks like he's trimming down. So I think if he trims down, his feet are too slow as well, if I'm being honest with you. Then his hands are quick. They're damn quick for a heavyweight. So that's good. But if he can just get his feet to catch up a little bit, because his feet are plodding, as you could see, which is why AJ could just dance around him really in the second fight. If his feet can get better, which they should do under Eddie Reynoso, especially if he comes in lighter and they work on his movement and mobility, then I think he's got a chance against anyone. I genuinely do. Maybe not against the AJ and Furies. Everyone else, 100%. And I genuinely think if he really dedicates himself, he even has a chance against AJ and Furies. I genuinely do. I think he's that talented. And he's got more talent than someone like Deontay Wilder, in the sense that, you know what, his ability is just crazy. Absolutely crazy. I genuinely think it is. Okay. Unless anyone in the chat has any more questions, far away if you've got more questions, and we can discuss it. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be what's in the title description, because we've just been talking about Deontay Wilder, which is way off topic, and Ruiz, but I don't mind. I might try and do these types of discussions every Friday around this time for about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the turnout. And yeah, just kind of talk boxing, which is really good. And I really enjoyed it. I'll be doing some live watch alongs as well for some of the big upcoming fights. That'll be good. And yeah, also have interviews as well. Just check it out on my playlist, which is boxing, yeah, I've got loads of interviews, former world champions like Ryan Burnett, also current fighters that fight on Sky and also on BT as well. But I'll be doing live watch alongs for. So what's the next big fight? Let me just confirm. Yeah, I won't be doing it for Crusher Shields versus Mary Eve DeCare, even though that'll be a good fight. But I won't be doing for that. 13th of March, I'll probably try and do. This will be early in the morning. So if anyone wants to wake up at like 3, 4 a.m. in the morning with me, feel free. Juan Estrada versus Roman Gonzalez with Chocolatito, WBA and WBC super flyweight titles, and then Jessica McCaskill versus Cecilia Breakhouse for the WBA, WBC, IBF, and WBO welterweight titles. So undisputed. That's a rematch because Jessica McCaskill beat the undefeated Cecilia Breakhouse. So that's on the same card. So I'll try and cover that. I'll definitely be covering Lawrence Coley versus Glowacki for the WBO cruiserweight title, and Chris Billiam-Smith versus Dion Juma for the Commonwealth and Vacant British cruiserweight titles. That will be on Sky on the 20th of March in the UK. So I'll be covering that. And then 27th, I'll be doing that as well. Dylan White versus Alexander Povetkin. So this will be Saturdays in the evening. Dylan White versus Alexander Povetkin for the WBC interim heavyweight title. Definitely will be doing that as well. And on the undercard is Ted Cheeseman versus JJ Metcalf, who, for the British super welterweight title, JJ Metcalf I actually interviewed. So again, check it out. And on the 26th, It's Akeem Ennis Brown versus Sam Maxwell. Again, I interviewed both of them. That's for the British and Commonwealth light welterweight titles. They're both undefeated as well. So go check that out. It's on my channel, and they both talk about each other as well. And Johnny Fisher, who fought on Sky, the young heavyweight, who fought his debut. So I talked to him. He's a really nice guy as well. Cool. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Please do remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really does help. And nice to have people on as well chatting. And if not, I just love talking boxing anyway. You know what I'm like. Anyway, have a fantastic weekend. If I don't see you guys on any other videos of mine, have a fantastic weekend. And yeah, have a good one and a good evening or good afternoon or good morning. Thank you very much.